Hi, everybody. It's great to be back with you. You know, last week I was in sunny Tennessee visiting family, but I'm back in the saddle now. Those of you who know me a little bit know that I have a timid and introverted nature, and I'm not proud of that, but it's just the way God made me. Therefore, protest demonstrations are really not my cup of tea. Down through the years, I've conquered my deficiencies now and again and participated in a few demonstrations. Back in the later 1980s, I was part of Operation Rescue a few times, sitting in, there at the abortion clinic. In the 1990s, I participated in, one or two large pro-life demonstrations at the state capitol. But other than that, I haven't done very much in the way of demonstrating. I admit that such things are just way out of my comfort zone. But, folks, sometimes we really have to get over ourselves. And when an opportunity comes along to witness to an important truth, well, then, maybe we need to take advantage of that opportunity. So when Karen Miller and Teresa Albright of our staff determined for visitation to have a presence at the recent Plaza demonstrations, I decided to go. And I was down there for a little bit on Saturday night, and then I was down there for a couple of hours Sunday afternoon. I did not want to go, but I'm very glad I did. I want to tell you why. In so many ways, unless you and I experience something for ourselves, it can be very easy to get the wrong idea and very hard to get the right idea about a particular thing. So what's going on down there at the plaza these last several nights anyway? Is it just a bunch of hooligans and ne'er-do-wells engaged in gratuitous vandalism and violence? Is it a gigantic aggregation of fools dedicated to protesting the sad facts of human nature that can no more be changed than the ocean be drained? Is it a mere throng of young people out to make a nebulous point because they have nothing better to do? There are a lot of people who think such things, and in fairness to them, there is some violence and some vandalism and some foolishness. But as I say, I'm very grateful that I spent time there last weekend because I could quickly see that the Plaza protests are not, on the whole, silly or evil. No, despite the evident graffiti on some buildings, broken windows, burned out automobiles, the Plaza protests are in fact mostly well-meaning, respectful, and even orderly. I must have walked around and through that big Sunday crowd half a dozen times. To my surprise, I found that there were people there of every race and every season of life, too. And whether they were old or young, or black or white, or something else, they were all very considerate of each other and downright kind to me, just an old guy. I occupied myself picking up trash and visiting with whoever wanted to stop and talk. Every exchange was peaceable. The feelings proffered were encouraging. I left there thoroughly convinced that the lion's share of Plaza protest energy is positive. That big crowd of people were mostly good people seeking a better America for everyone, a society where all of us are less manipulated, more respected, and dependably protected. No matter how much money we've got, no matter what creed we profess, no matter what race we belong to. Along with me down there, at least on Sunday, there were quite a few visitation staff and parishioners. If you know of anybody else who went down there and you have questions about it, I encourage you to talk to them. I feel rather sure they'll tell you the very same thing. All in all, I'll tell you, it was an education for me. It was remarkably hopeful. It was a refreshing experience. I know it can be kind of hard to believe when all you see are news reports of a night and cars are burning and walls are spray painted and rocks are thrown. I know it can be hard to understand it, but if you're down there in the midst of it, it's the sort of thing that can really restore your faith in our society. You know, maybe you wanted to go last weekend, but weren't able to. We're going to have another opportunity tomorrow night. Now, the crowds, of course, are much smaller now than they were last weekend, but that's okay. I think Jesus is calling us to solidarity with disadvantaged people, with suffering people. And if you're interested, we're going to meet out here in the courtyard of the parish tomorrow night, Thursday night, about 6:15, 6:30. And those who want to remain here are welcome to pray with the rosary or in their own way for our nation. And then those who want to are going to walk down to the plaza after we gather by the fountain and pray the rosary for a more peaceful, a more equitable, a more respectful America. Everybody's welcome, and I sure hope to be there. Well, to conclude, I want to talk about the changes in the Mass this weekend. I told you all, what's it been now, 3 weeks ago, that we're living in a very provisional, very experimental time. It's not easy. It can be downright aggravating if you're of kind of a curmudgeonly bent like I am, but there's just no way around this. So this weekend, we're going to adjust the allowable number of people in the church according to city and diocesan decree. I believe that according to what is allowable by law, we can have 50% of our fire code occupancy limit. For us, that would be just north of 500 people. However, we still have to maintain that 6-foot social distancing requirement between households. Therefore, there's no way in the world that we're going to be able to host 500 people, unfortunately. The staff and I have talked, and what we're going to try to do is limit the crowd to 180 people, and then there'll be another 20 spaces or so beyond that for ministers and visitors who just come in unawares. So 180 people. The plan is to see how this goes for a few weeks, and then maybe we can talk about adding a second Sunday morning Mass. Please understand that it takes roughly 1.5 hours to sanitize the nave of the church after every service. Therefore, when we finally do get around to adding another Sunday morning Mass, it means we're going to have to change that Mass schedule yet again. We'll probably have to go to one really early Mass and then one really late one. But anyway, I don't want to do this until we have a better idea about how well we fill the place in light of the nearly doubled number of people that we're now able to host. No matter how you slice it, I really look forward to seeing more of you there. I can't imagine there's anybody in all of visitation that looks forward to normalizing things more than I do. Because after all, you folks are the better part of my life, and I miss seeing you. Well, I hope to be back here again next week for another one of our little chats. In the meantime, goodbye and God bless.